The United States military has performed poorly, to put it politely, over the last several years, whether it's being defeated in the Red Sea under both the Biden and Trump administration by Ansar Allah or the Houthis, whether it's the performance of American generals against Russian generals in Ukraine, particularly in the first couple of years. Right. The issue here, the problem is the Israelis. That's the problem. And what you need is not regime change in Tehran or regime change in Ramallah or Gaza City, but regime change in Tel Aviv. Because you add a settler colonial state, Israel, and this Israel project, that the Zionist project, that originally its sites were limited, right? Its ambitions were limited. It's certainly a greater Israel, and I'm not saying that the Israelis for decades haven't coveted parts of Lebanon and Syria, and certainly Palestine, of course, or the Sinai, etc. What I'm saying now is you have an Israeli mindset, an Israeli worldview that is well beyond that. Whereas in the past you had this idea for greater Israel, or at a minimum just say maintaining the occupied Palestinian territories, and an idea of an Israeli deterrence throughout the Middle East. But now there's not this idea of simply just deterrence by Israel of other nations in the Middle East. It's dominance of the Middle East by Israel. That is the objective. That is the goal. And you can't just confine that, I believe, to the Netanyahu government, because I think this view, this mindset of the Israelis extends throughout the Israeli political class, certainly the national security class, absolutely through the religious class, of the need for Israel to either dominate the region for what you could call nationalist or secular type national security objectives, right? Or just in the idea of being the dominant power in the region, and how that appeals, of course, to political leaders. But then, of course, you have this idea that greater Israel is no longer just the occupied territories, maybe southern Lebanon, but greater Israel goes from the Nile to the Euphrates. I think their thoughts is we don't have to have a resolution. That if we can't get a puppet in charge of Tehran smoothly, then the next best thing is to have nothing in charge of Iran, and to have Iran resemble Syria 2015, right? And I think that is what is motivating many of those who understand the uncertainty or the unlikelihood of regime change in Iran. They say, okay, that's fine, because the idea of Iran that's fractured, completely chaotic, in the midst of the civil war is much better than allowing the current government to stay in power. And these people really sincerely believe that, and they're absolutely, they're sadists.
آنچه در مورد ما میگویند